The Nightingale is the latest feature film from director Jennifer Kent, who is fresh off her debut feature, The Babadook, which, if you don't know what The Babadook is, it's a pretty impressive little feature film debut. It's not a masterpiece by any means, but it's a solid horror film that works as a metaphor for what the main character is going through. And coming off that, even though I didn't love The Babadook, I thought that Jennifer Kent showed a lot of potential. So when she announced that she was doing a rape and revenge movie set in the 1800s, I said, sign me up!
I surrender!
You surrender?
Unfortunately for me, this movie didn't live up to the hype that I had for it. It didn't live up to my expectations, but by no means is it a bad movie. I think it is a solid movie. I think it is a slightly above average movie, although I was hoping that it would be more than that. But it does have a lot of really great elements about it, and those elements are on display in the first shot of the movie. It's beautifully shot and wonderfully acted. Most of the technical aspects of the film it absolutely nails, but the problems start to creep in when the story actually gets underway. And that's mostly thanks to the mediocre script. So let's just get into the first act and get that out of the way, because even though it's quite vile, it is sort of unremarkable and not worth dwelling on too much.
God, you're beautiful.
So we see that our main character, Claire, is an Irish girl that is married to another Irish dude, and they have a baby. But the English lieutenant that oversees the place she lives is pretty much the worst man that has ever existed in the history of mankind. He beats and rapes Claire and kills her husband and child, which obviously gives her the motivation to go and get revenge. Thus, the rape-revenge aspect of the story. After this, the lieutenant sets off with a couple of dudes to a different city in hopes of getting a promotion, and Claire heads after him with her new companion, Billy, a black guy that helps her navigate the countryside on her way to kill these soldiers. This puts us about 40 minutes into this 2-hour and 16-minute film, and even though I breezed over the first 40 minutes, and it is a little unremarkable, it is probably the best part of the movie. The first 40 minutes are gross, they're effective, and it works pretty well. It is the only part of the movie that I felt really anything during, because quickly after this, it nosedives into mediocrity, hardcore. And if you've seen any rape revenge movie, then you pretty much know exactly where this is going, and it goes exactly where you think it does. And then, if you've seen any Disney animated movie over the past decade, then you know exactly the beats that this story is going to take. Now, I know it sounds weird to compare a hard-edged rated R rape revenge movie to Disney animated classics, but let me explain really quick. In most of these contrived Disney animated joints, you have two main characters that initially don't like each other. Usually they are from two completely different worlds and are forced together. Along their journey, they become familiar with each other and even become friends, or better yet, lovers. Near the end, they use their combined selves to overcome some obstacle that they couldn't overcome on their own. Now with that in mind, let's get back to The Nightingale, a movie about a white girl and a black guy from two different worlds that are thrust together on a journey of self-discovery.
You're a bloody coward.
I'm not a coward. Those ones who see a black fella, they shoot a black fella. Bit hard for a dead man to show you the f***ing way.
Now we see a couple of back and forth scenes comparing the trip that each party is going on. We see our two main characters bicker and fight, and then it will cut to the soldiers bickering and fighting, and this goes on for another 10 or so minutes until we finally get something actually interesting that happens.
Hi, Bunny.
Look at you.
Oh man, another helpless, defenseless woman has entered this story. I wonder, what is gonna happen to her? If you can't already tell, the antagonist of this movie is quite possibly the most evil man that has ever existed on the history of the planet. He is basically a cartoon villain. He has no defining traits, no character elements, no arc, no motivation. He's just evil for no reason. And I think the movie blows a great opportunity to at least kind of humanize this character, because he does some absolutely horrible, vile things to start this movie that are unforgivable. But then he goes on a little journey with some of his companions and a little kid. And they go on this journey, and it shows a little bit of him kind of taking him under his wing, but not too much, to the point where you could have just cut it out because it doesn't really affect anything. But if you were to flesh that element out a little bit more, have him taking this kid under his wing, showing him how to shoot a pistol, showing him how to load it, or make a campfire, or just pulling him aside and giving him sort of a one-on-one talk, then maybe you could have some kind of father-son element that would actually make this horrible main character, horrible antagonist, somewhat relatable, or at least a little bit human. But this movie decides way early on that this human being is not a human. He's just an evil robot who loves to twirl his evil mustache.
Shoot the next one, I will! I'm shooting!
And if you were to have this element of father-son, then this moment where he murders that kid would be way more potent too. Oh, and some spoilers, by the way. So after this black woman is raped and murdered and more endless bickering and yelling occurs, Claire finally catches up with one of the guys that wronged her. And it just so happens to be the guy that killed her baby.
Shut up!
Of course she kills him, but it takes her a long time because her gun doesn't work. So she beats him and stabs him until he finally dies, which is another solid little scene. I like that her murdering him isn't quick and clean as she maybe hoped it would be. There's nothing quick or satisfying in this. I like it reinforcing that what she's doing isn't much better than what they are doing. It's gross and unsettling and clearly does a number on her as well, but this may just be the last scene that has any effect on me whatsoever, because after this, it's basically a complete wash. Yeah! What? What happened there? Did she do it on purpose? Why? If she did, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. What compelled you to do that? I don't get it.
Got a good one. Good little one.
By now, Billy and Claire are more comfortable with each other, and the lieutenant's party is growing ever thinner.
You inkling bastard!
So after what feels like hours, Claire finally catches up with the lieutenant that raped her and murdered her husband. And you know what she does?
He's seen ya. You have to shoot. He's seen ya. What are you doing? Shoot.
She gets herself shot. She gets herself shot. She had an easy shot on the guy that literally took everything from her, who has no character whatsoever, and she didn't shoot him. Why? You take that shot. 100 times out of 100 times, you take that shot and you take that guy out. Because he's not a human being, he's a cartoon character living in the human being world. He needs to be put down regardless of what he's done. Because of our main character's stupidity, Billy, the one guy in this movie with any common sense, gets captured by the bad guys. He leads them to town, gets away, and then miraculously meets up back with Claire. We see a friendly guy let them hang with him, then they head into town to confront the lieutenant. Why, oh why, did the movie feel the need to cut to 100 different reactions here? I got it after the first one. Did we need to see 10 more? Just to make it blatantly obvious? So now Claire goes and confronts the lieutenant, where we get this very bizarre scene.
Didn't your mommy love you?
I think the editing in this scene is hilarious as well. They just feel the need to cut to Billy watching from some vantage point after every little thing that happens, and every time it cuts to him, it was funny. After this, her and Billy go lay down in the woods together, which, honestly, is a nice little ending. They overcome the cultural barriers and social norms of the time, and will live on together, now realizing that the path to revenge isn't worth it, and being together is the only thing that Wait, no, oh my god, no! Why? No! I thought it was over. I thought it had a nice ending. I thought, oh no. So instead of that potentially nice ending, we get this. them on the beach having learned nothing whatsoever, Billy being fatally shot, and our main character Claire just standing there. Yes! Oh, yes, that's what I wanted from this movie. I guess it is sort of a fittingly bleak ending because this movie is just very drab, but why couldn't we have some development? Why couldn't we have some arcs? Why did it need to be this bleak? Wouldn't it have been nice if she just realized that getting revenge wasn't going to do her any good? I mean, but no. This movie just has nothing to say whatsoever. It has no characters whatsoever, and it goes nowhere, really. It just kind of goes until it ends. It doesn't have character development. It doesn't have any arcs. It doesn't have any characters learning something. It's just, it goes until it ends. It's just a horribly bloated, undercooked, contrived, on-the-nose rape revenge story that has nothing interesting to say. Oh, great, it's set in the 1800s. Never seen that before. Whoa, it's got a 1.37 to 1 aspect ratio. Awesome! So what? Why do any of this? Why go through all this trouble if the characters and story are so bland? I just don't understand it. But, on the other hand, I can see why people like this movie. Although I clearly don't. I do see why people like it because it does kind of poke at nerves and do things that a lot of movies are scared to do, and I respect that. I respect that this movie really goes all out with it. It doesn't hold anything back. It's incredibly raw. The problem is that it just doesn't do it that well. It doesn't execute it that well, and at the end of the day, it honestly feels tame. Outside of that opening 40 minutes that's incredibly shocking, there isn't all that much that the movie builds towards. It doesn't progress very well. There's not a lot of intrigue. The pacing is horrible. The movie is needlessly over 2 hours. It could have been 90 minutes, and that would have been fine. Because for 90 minutes of the runtime, it is literally just characters sitting in the woods and bickering at each other until they stop bickering, and that's the whole movie. It's just so uninteresting on every level. Everything that makes a movie fun for me, or enjoyable, or watchable, is just completely stripped away from this for reasons I cannot comprehend. So, overall, I can't say I would recommend watching it. I mean, if you want to watch it for how great it looks or how well acted it is or all the technical stuff it achieves, sure, but it's just kind of a mess. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. That's it. Okay, goodbye.